Uh, uh, Now, reading the Word is great as well, but this listening can be, well, there's a passage where Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice." And, but I had never really deliberately listened to God before in my life, and this is after I was a Christian for more than 20 years. And so I went off, got some time alone with God in the foothill. I now live in Colorado Springs, and we have a lot of mountains there. And I went up into the mountains, and I tried this idea of listening to God out. And at first, it was really quiet, and I began to get a little frustrated because I wasn't sure. I thought, well, God might speak to real...
There wasn't like a burning bush,
Yeah,
or there
right.
wasn't...
Yeah, God might speak to really spiritual men like Billy Graham, but why would he speak to me? And but I waited. I had a little yellow pad of paper, and so some thoughts popped into my mind, and so I wrote them down, and then some more thoughts. Next thing I knew, I'd spend about 2 hours alone with God, listening, and it was one of the best times that I'd had with God for years. And the things that came to me is, Rusty, you didn't really choose me. I chose you.
Wow.
I saw you in Okinawa, and I called you to myself because I cared about how you're doing.
I just had, right now there's a book that's being heavily publicized about the life of Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple.
Yes.
And he was adopted, and the guy who's writing his biography said that in the interviews, he said that kids at the schoolyard would tease him, saying, "Oh, your parents didn't want you, they gave you away, they didn't want you." And he went home crying, but his adoptive mother said, "No, no, no, that's not it. It wasn't that your parents, we chose you. We wanted you."
No,
and that gave him this sense of confidence.
Yes.
And he went on to produce the iPad. But same thing you're talking about, that was an epiphany for you, that God so loved you that he gave his only begotten son, that if you believed in him, he would. That's interesting.
Oh, I think what really happened is God, my perfect Father, began to affirm me as his son. And sort of what I yearned from my biological father would have been that he would have said words like, "Rusty, I'm really for you.
Right.
I love you, no matter what you do." Well, that just didn't happen because of the... I mean, my dad's a great man, but he just wasn't able to offer that. And so God, my perfect Father, began to affirm me, and it really started to call me forth as a man. So that was very rewarding. But then I began to work with people doing this listening prayer with them.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the book, and again, the book, I don't know if we can get a close-up of the book, but it's Listening and Inner Healing Prayer by Rusty Rustenbach. A lot of what goes into this book is story after story of different people, because now this is what your journey was and what you went through, but you found you have a new ministry now for those, especially that are working in ministry, that are coming back and have these same deep hurts and pains, and how do you walk them through that?
Well, truth is, Marty, everyone's wounded. Now, some people are more wounded than others, but everyone has wounds. They went through disappointments and things like that in their childhood. And for instance, this coming weekend, the reason I'm up here in the Northeast is because we're doing a seminar near Boston in a little town called Newton. That's a listening and inner healing prayer seminar. And about 60 people will be there. And but yeah, everyone has these wounds, and so what I've begun to do over about the last 12 years is sit with people and explain a little bit what this ministry is about, like we're doing right here, and then begin to listen to God with them. And that's called facilitated healing prayer. So I might prepare for a time of listening first, and then ask a question like, well, Lord Jesus, what area would you like to bring up? Is there an area of emotional pain, say, that Marty's been struggling with, or perhaps something in the last week or two where he's really overreacted to an event, or maybe an area of bondage where Marty doesn't quite feel free? And so we would do this in listening, And you would have a thought come into your mind. And you might even say something, well, I'm not really sure this is God or not, but I had an overreaction last week. Somebody cut me off in traffic, and I got really angry, or something like that.
Yeah.
And so then I might ask, well, Lord, would you now just take Marty back in time to other times when he's really felt angry? Or say it was anxiety. Other times when Marty was really anxious, just take him back in time and to the first time that he felt that emotion. So you'll say, well, maybe you'll say, well, I'm remembering this time maybe when I was in the 4th grade and my parents were supposed to pick me up and they didn't show up for an hour. And so then I might ask the Lord, well, Lord, in the middle of that event, you see, that would be like an event that has abandonment in it.
Right.
What happened inside of Marty? What did he come to believe? And so you might come up, well, I must not have very much value. Right. And these aren't things that you consciously know about. They're more things that are hidden. If you think of an iceberg, I think it's 6/9 or something like that is hidden below the water. These are things that are hidden below the water that you don't even think about, but they influence you nonetheless.
Yeah, you know, as I was reading your book, there was a guy, I go to Walnut Hill Church, and there's a guy that goes to that church, and he grew up in a home where there was alcoholism in the home, and it was very chaotic, and as a young child, he remembers when his dad, in this case, would come home, and it would be a chaotic thing, and he would get in trouble if he did anything wrong. And this is one thing you talk about in the book too, where you make these early childhood vows.
Yes.
You know, and he made this vow, and he can remember as a very small child, I am going to do everything right. I'm not going to have anything out of place in my room because I don't want to give anyone any reason to jump on me. And it's just chaotic alcoholism, you know, parents with alcoholism. And he made that vow at an early age. And it's been a defining vow throughout. I mean, this is a 50-year-old guy, very successful businessman, but he's still held captive to that. When I was reading your book, you talk about how you take these people back, and it could be a defining issue abandoned at school or trying to unpack or untie some of these early vows. Is that another thing you know?
Very much so, Marty. It's really not me taking them back. It's really us going back with God. And the cool thing is, see, a person can go to a counselor and pay them, you know, $125 an hour and get the same kind of therapy, so to speak, meaning the counselor asks you a lot of questions, and due to his great analytical skills, he'll try to help you figure out where things went wrong.
But there's no, you know, great physician that can do the final healing.
Well, see, in listening and healing prayer, we want God, who is the wonderful counselor. You know, you get those Christmas cards, Isaiah 9:6, for unto us a child is born, and his name shall be Wonderful Counselor, is one of the names of God. And so God can reveal things that happened in your heart, like that, like a vow, that there's one example in the book, and it's about a guy whose mother grew up in the Depression, and so they had to go out and buy all of their clothing at garage sales.
Right. Yeah.
And so this was, you know, later she got married and all this. Her husband worked for Eastman Kodak, and they had a swimming pool in the backyard.
Yeah.
But they're still going to garage sales.
Right.
And so this young man who's on our staff came to believe in that I must not have very much value. Yeah. And so he made a vow.
Well, what's his name? Because he's on a YouTube video too.
It's on a YouTube, Bill Tell.
Bill Tell. So Google Bill Tell.
You have to put the word navigators, because otherwise you'll get all William Tell overtures.
Navigators. We have, Bill Tell, and then put the word navigator on that. We actually had it queued up, but I don't know how to put it in the machine. So look it up yourself, but go ahead.
So he made that vow, and then he developed a strategy, and it was, well, the vow was, I will prove to you I have worth.
Right.
And the strategy was I will figure out all of your expectations,
Yeah.
and I will meet and exceed them. And so he became a very, very, very successful in everything he put his hand to.
Right.
Now he did the same thing I did. He was a campus worker with the Navigators,
Yeah.
except he was in Illinois. Well, because he was so good at it, he just kept getting promoted. He eventually got sent back to our headquarters in big leadership. And he said, eventually I got to the place where there were so many people to please, so many expectations, that he went into a clinical depression.
Yeah.
And had to go on medication. And he couldn't even control his thoughts during that period.
Yeah.
He went on a year-long medical leave, and during that time, is when he began to realize these things that had happened.
Bill Tell,
Yes.
Navigators. Look it up on YouTube. Put in
It's
Bill
a great
Tell
video.
Navigators. It's a really incredible story. Well, in the closing couple minutes that we have, first of all, how can people get in touch with you if they want to go to one of these healing seminars that you have, or what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Probably through my blog. I have a blog. NavPress made a blog for me.
Okay.
And if you see my name here,
Maybe you put the name up on the screen because
my blog is Rusty Rustenbach, all one word, /blogspot.
Okay.
And it's a Google blog, and so we have posts, and people can write in based on the posts that are on the blog,
Right.
and we could get in touch that way. That would probably be the best way. I don't want to get gazillions of phone calls. So,
Yeah.
so,
Well, wait, I have your cell phone right here. You can just call them up at this number.
So,
But well, what difference has this made in your ministry, and you know, give us a wrap up of where you're at now.
well, I would say the primary thing that this has done is given me a much deeper and intimate relationship with God, and a more experiential relationship with God, where I experience His love more deeply, and then it's given me more confidence in working with other people,
Right.
and it's really transformed my ministry in that basically I do this full time, and I've traveled in cities around the U.S. Just got back from Africa. We were training people from 7 different nations in this ministry and other ministries that we call discipleship from the inside out, meaning stuff that's aimed at the stuff that's hidden below the waterline of the iceberg in a person's life. So, so it's really enhanced my ministry, so quality of my relationship with Christ and my ministry, and I just would say I'm at a much better place than I used to be.
You know, it's interesting. There's a verse in 2 Corinthians that talks about, you know, God is a God of comfort who will comfort you so that you are able to comfort others. And I think looking back, hearing your story, if you hadn't gone through that time in Spain, that desert type experience, and have you get in touch with the depths of this healing that you're talking about, I think is Isaiah 61, is that
Yes.
what it's, you wouldn't have this ministry. So looking back, maybe the pain of Spain has borne fruit in this way.
No, I agree. I think God did far more in me in those years in Spain than He did through me, and He was preparing me for something, but I didn't know He was.
The book again, Listening and Inner Healing Prayer. The author is Rusty Rustenbach, and you can go to his blog. Just go Rusty Rustenbach /blog or something like that. Blogspot. You'll find it, and get in touch with that, because God wants to meet you right where you're at. You don't have to act like you got it all together, or that you're the most successful guy in the world. He came so that He could heal the brokenhearted. So get in touch with that, and I just want to thank you again for coming in, all the way from Colorado. Last thought.
Just one thought on the blog, the actual name of the blog that will come up, it will say the Listening to God Forum. That way you'll know. Then you click on that, and that's the blog.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate you coming in. And
Thank you for having me, Marty.
Glad I met you. That it seems like 3 weeks ago, but you told me it was 30 years.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Listen, stay tuned to the Marty Heiser Show. We're going to be right back with some more stuff. Who knows what it is? Just stay tuned. What else are you going to do? Sit there, watch the show. It'll be a lot of fun. Stay tuned.